Some betrayals don't scream. They whisper through the walls of your home, waiting for you to finally listen. My name is Monica, I'm 38 years old, and for the longest time I believed I had the kind of life people envied. A steady marriage, a warm home, a husband who called me his soulmate, and a best friend who felt like a sister. I used to look at my life and think, I made it. I'm one of the lucky ones. But luck, I've learned, is fragile. It doesn't shatter all at once. It cracks quietly, piece by piece, until you look down one day and realize you've been bleeding for years. My husband, Ethan, was the kind of man people instantly liked. He had that easy smile, the kind that made strangers open up to him. He worked in advertising, charming, creative, and a master at making people believe whatever he wanted them to. I used to find it sexy, the way he could walk into a room and command it with confidence. And then there was Lena, my best friend since college. She was spontaneous, loud, wild in a way I wasn't. Where I was steady, she was chaos. But that was our balance. I was the anchor, she was the spark. She helped me pick my wedding dress. She held my bouquet when I walked down the aisle. I thought of her as family, no more than family. Family can hurt you and you still forgive them, but best friends? They're supposed to be your second skin. It's funny how betrayal often hides in laughter. For years I ignored the small signs, the ones that come disguised as coincidences. Ethan would come home late, saying he had client dinners. Lena started showing up less for girls' nights, saying she was swamped at work. I didn't connect the dots because love makes you blind in the kindest way you don't want to see, so you don't. But I remember the exact day my world tilted off its axis. It was a rainy Tuesday. The kind where the sky feels like it's mourning something. I had just finished a client pitch and decided to surprise Ethan with his favorite takeout. I remember humming in the car, thinking how nice it would be to have dinner together, maybe watch a movie. Something normal. Something ordinary. When I reached his office, the receptionist looked surprised. "Oh, he left early," she said. "Really?" I asked. "He didn't mention it." She smiled politely. "He said he had an off-site meeting. He seemed happy." I don't know why, but something in her tone made my stomach twist. "Happy?" I called him, no answer. Texted Lena, no reply either. And maybe it was pure instinct, or maybe some part of me already knew, but I drove to Lena's apartment. I had a spare key. She gave it to me years ago, after she locked herself out once. I parked outside, the rain still drumming against the windshield, my heart pounding in my chest like a warning I didn't want to hear. I told myself I was being crazy, that I'd open the door, and they'd both laugh at me for being paranoid. But when I pushed the key into the lock, I heard it, laughter. His laughter. You know the sound of your husband's laugh. You can recognize it even in your sleep. I froze. I could have turned around. I could have walked away. But betrayal pulls you forward like gravity. You need to see it to believe it. I opened the door. The smell hit first, his cologne mixed with something sweet, something wrong. Then his voice. "Lena, stop, someone could." He stopped when he saw me. Time doesn't slow down like in movies. It freezes. You stop breathing. You stop thinking. You just feel everything at once. The shock, the nausea, the heartbreak all tangled together. Lena was sitting on the couch wearing his shirt. My best friend. My husband. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there and said, "Oh." Ethan started stammering. "Monica, it's not what it looks like." And I remember laughing. Actually laughing. Because what else could it be? A surprise party? Lena tried to speak, but I couldn't even look at her. I just set the food down on the table like I was still the wife who cared. Then I turned and walked out. That was the last time I saw them together. People imagine betrayal as a storm, loud, dramatic, messy. But it's not. It's quiet. It's a knife that slides in without warning, and when it's done, you're left holding it, wondering how you didn't see it coming. That night I sat in my car for hours. I didn't call anyone. Didn't cry. Didn't even drive home. I just stared at the rain until morning. Then I went home, packed my essentials and called a lawyer. No yelling. No begging. Just silence. The divorce was clean, quick, and quiet, which made Ethan uneasy. He kept calling, trying to talk, to explain, to twist it into something forgivable. But I was done being the understanding wife. I didn't throw plates or demand apologies. I just signed the papers and left. I moved across the state to a small city where no one knew me. I started freelancing, small marketing projects, then bigger ones. And somewhere between broken nights and long coffee-fueled mornings, I built something new. A company. A vision. A life without them. They thought I'd disappear, fade into bitterness. But I was reborn in the silence they left behind. Years passed. My firm grew fast, faster than I expected. I learned to smile again, not because I was healed but because I was free. I built a team of young, talented women, dreamers, fighters, people who'd known what it was like to be underestimated. We became more like a family than a business. Then, one afternoon 5 years later, karma came knocking. My assistant walked in with 2 resumes and said, "We've got a couple applying for the new account management roles, strong experience, but they're coming from a failed startup." I took the files absent-mindedly, scanning through the names. And then I froze. Ethan Parker. Lena Morris. It felt like time looped back, the same names, the same people now coming to me. Apparently, after our divorce, they had started their own firm. They got married. Built a small business. But bad decisions, debt, and ego had sunk it. Now they were desperate. And they had no idea whose company they were applying to. For a moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Life has a cruel sense of humor. I told my assistant, "Schedule their interviews with me personally." She smiled, oblivious to the storm behind my calm tone. "Of course, ma'am." That night I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed everything: the betrayal, the silence, the years of rebuilding. Part of me wanted to reject them immediately. Another part wanted to face them, to see them see me again. Not the broken woman who left, but the woman who rose. So I decided to meet them. The morning of the interview I wore a crisp white suit: power, confidence, rebirth. When I walked into the boardroom I saw them sitting there, holding hands nervously, not recognizing me at first. Time had done its work. Ethan's hair was grayer, his confidence dimmer. Lena looked tired, her charm dulled by life's harsh lessons. I smiled. "Good morning. I'm Monica Reeves, founder and CEO of Mr. Creative Agency." Their faces drained of color. Ethan blinked. "And Monica?" I nodded, keeping my voice steady. "Yes. It's been a while." Lena opened her mouth, but no words came out. I could almost hear the memories crashing in her head. The apartment, the laughter, the betrayal. I gestured for them to sit. "Please. Let's begin." And for the first time in years I saw fear in their eyes. Not because I was angry, but because I wasn't. I asked the usual interview questions, my tone professional, polite. Every answer they gave was coated with discomfort. Ethan's hands trembled. Lena kept looking at the door like she wanted to run. Halfway through, Ethan tried to apologize. "Monica, look, we were young and stupid. We made mistakes." I raised a hand gently. "This is a job interview, not a confession. Please focus." Silence. The power shift was complete. When it ended I smiled again, the same smile I once gave them when I trusted them most. "You'll hear from us soon." They left the room, pale and shaken. And as the door closed, I exhaled for what felt like the first time in years. That night I sat alone in my office, the city lights glowing through the glass. I thought about revenge, how it's not always fire. Sometimes it's a quiet reclaiming. A balance restored. I didn't want to destroy them. That would make me small again. I wanted them to live knowing that I didn't just survive. I thrived. That I didn't need to scream to win. So I hired them both. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't ending someone. It's letting them see what they lost, every single day. As I signed their offer letters, I felt something loosen in my chest. Not anger. Not bitterness. Just peace. The kind that comes from knowing the universe always balances itself. You just have to be patient enough to let it. And I was. For 5 long years I smiled through the silence, rebuilt my life and waited for this moment. Now it was mine. There's a strange satisfaction in watching the people who broke you walk through doors they never thought you'd own. The day Ethan and Lena joined my company, it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. My assistant, unaware of our history, welcomed them like any new hires, warm, professional, polite. I watched from the glass wall of my office as they stood at reception, holding their onboarding folders. They looked nervous like school kids on their first day. Lena had changed. Her confidence, the kind that once filled every room, had shrunk into politeness. Ethan wore a tired suit that didn't quite fit. It was strange seeing them like this, smaller somehow, stripped of their shine. When I stepped out of my office they both stiffened. I smiled like a queen greeting her court. Welcome aboard. Thank you, Ms. Reeves, Lena murmured, avoiding my eyes. Pleasure to be here, Ethan added, forcing a weak smile. Every syllable they spoke was heavy. The weight of what they'd done hung invisible between us, thick and suffocating. I introduced them to the team and assigned them to our newest campaign, a luxury hotel chain that required meticulous creative strategy. It was high-profile, stressful, and would test every ounce of their professionalism. Perfect. They had to report directly to me. The first few days were quiet. They kept their heads down, working late, speaking to me only when absolutely necessary. The rest of my team didn't notice the undercurrent. To them it was just business. But to me, every meeting, every exchange was a chess move. I never raised my voice. I didn't have to. Power doesn't shout. It hums softly in control. Sometimes I'd catch Ethan watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. Not with love or lust, that was long gone, but with disbelief. As if he couldn't quite comprehend that the woman he betrayed had built an empire. Lena, on the other hand, avoided me completely. She spoke through emails, her tone overly formal. Once I overheard her whisper to a colleague, "I didn't realize she'd become this," as if I was a transformation she never saw coming. One afternoon we had a creative review in the conference room. I sat at the head of the table, my usual place now. Ethan presented their campaign pitch. It was decent but uninspired. I listened quietly, then said, "You're playing it too safe. The concept lacks emotional gravity. We sell dreams, not billboards. Do better." He nodded, jaw tight. I saw the flicker of old pride in his eyes. The man who once thought he was smarter than me. I could almost read his thoughts. She's enjoying this. And maybe in a small way I was. But it wasn't cruelty, it was justice. A quiet reclaiming. Later that evening, after the team left, I found myself alone in my office. I looked out at the city lights and thought about how strange life can be. 5 years ago I sat in my car in the rain, shaking, heartbroken, humiliated. And now I was here, calm, composed, powerful, while the two people who destroyed my life worked under me. But revenge, I realized, isn't a single moment. It's a slow burn process. And I wasn't finished yet. A week later, I called a meeting to evaluate team performance. Ethan and Lena sat across from me, pretending to be professionals while drowning in tension. I flipped through their reports. "You've both done decent work," I said. "But your creative cohesion is lacking." They exchanged glances, clearly defensive. I leaned forward. "Let me guess, communication issues?" Lena spoke first, her voice trembling slightly. "We're still adjusting, Monica. I mean, Ms. Reeves." "Monica's fine," I interrupted softly. Her face flushed. Ethan cleared his throat. "We'll improve. We just need a bit more time." "Of course," I said with a calm smile. "Time fixes everything. Doesn't it?" The silence that followed was thick with unspoken meaning. They knew. I knew. And none of us could pretend otherwise. Over the next few months I watched the cracks form between them. Their marriage, once built on stolen passion, began to rot under pressure. I didn't need to interfere. I just let reality do the work. They'd whisper, argue in hallways, avoid each other during meetings, and submit work separately even when assigned as a team. Lena's once flawless presentations became sloppy. Ethan started missing deadlines. They were unraveling. And the beauty of it was no one else in the office had any idea. To everyone else I was just the calm, demanding CEO. But beneath that calm, I was orchestrating a quiet symphony of truth. One afternoon, I called Lena into my office. She entered hesitantly, clutching a notepad like a shield. "Sit," I said gently. She did. "I've been reviewing your progress," I began, sliding a file across the desk. "You're talented, Lena. You always were. But something's off. You seem distracted." Her eyes flicked up, nervous. "I'm just adjusting. It's been a rough year." I tilted my head. "Marriage trouble?" Her lips parted in shock. What?" I smiled faintly. "I can read people. You and Ethan used to be in sync. Now you avoid each other like strangers." She swallowed hard. "Things aren't perfect. But we're managing." I nodded, pretending sympathy. Sometimes people make choices they think will make them happy. And sometimes those choices come back to teach them who they really are. Tears welled in her eyes. She whispered, "Monica, I never wanted to hurt you." That was the first time she'd said my name in that tone, fragile, remorseful, like it burned her tongue. I leaned back. "You didn't hurt me, Lena. You set me free." She blinked, confused. I smiled. "You'll understand someday." Then I dismissed her, leaving her to her thoughts. That night, she didn't leave the office until late. I saw her sitting alone in the break room, staring at her reflection in the glass window, her face pale and lost. Karma, I thought, isn't loud. It's quiet, patient, surgical. A month later, we landed a major contract, a global tech campaign worth millions. I decided to host a company gala to celebrate. The ballroom was glowing with gold light, champagne flowing, laughter echoing through the night. I wore a crimson dress, the color of power, of rebirth, of everything I had become. When I walked in, the room hushed for a moment. All eyes turned to me. And in that instant, I saw it in Ethan's face, regret. He was standing at the bar, a glass in his hand, staring like a ghost, seeing the woman he buried rise again. Later, he approached me. "You look incredible," he said quietly. I sipped my drink. "I always did. You just stopped looking." He flinched slightly. "Monica, don't." I cut him off. "This isn't the place for your guilt." He hesitated, then said, "I made a mistake, leaving you, hurting you. I think about it every day." I met his eyes. "Good. I hope you never stop." He looked down, shame flooding his face. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I saw Lena across the room watching us, jealousy burning in her eyes. She turned away, grabbing another drink. They were unraveling faster now. By the end of the night, she'd caused a scene, accusing Ethan of flirting with me, crying in front of half the staff. It was messy, humiliating, and the perfect final crack. I didn't say a word. I just watched quietly as security escorted her outside, and Ethan followed, defeated. The next morning, both of them came into my office, red-eyed, embarrassed. Lena spoke first. "We're sorry about last night. It was unprofessional." I folded my hands calmly. "You're right. It was." Ethan tried to defend her. "It won't happen again." "Oh, I know it won't," I said softly. "Because you're both fired." They froze. "What?" Ethan whispered. "I can't keep employees who bring chaos into my company," I said. "You've both become liabilities. HR will process your exit papers today." Lena's voice cracked. "Monica, please. We need this job. We'll fix it." I stood. "You broke something years ago that can't be fixed. Consider this closure." For a moment no one spoke. The only sound was the ticking clock. Then Ethan said quietly, "You planned this." I smiled, not cruelly but peacefully. "No, I didn't plan it. I just let life do what it does best, balance itself." They left my office together, silent, defeated, ghosts of who they once were. When the door closed, I exhaled slowly. My hands trembled, not with rage but with release. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindictive. I just felt done. 5 years ago they took everything, my trust, my love, my innocence. But in return they gave me something far greater, strength. The kind that doesn't need to shout or destroy. The kind that builds, survives, and smiles at the ruins. I turned back to my window, the city lights flickering like distant stars. Sometimes revenge isn't fire. It's silence. It's success. It's peace. And that, I realized, was the true end of my story with them. But little did I know it wasn't the end. Because fate, the same quiet force that brought them back to me, wasn't quite finished yet. For weeks after firing Ethan and Lena, the office felt lighter, quieter, more focused. It was like removing a lingering storm cloud that had been hovering above everyone's heads. The air felt clearer. I could breathe again. But peace, true peace, it doesn't arrive without echo. Sometimes it comes wrapped in silence so deep, you start to hear what's still unfinished inside you. First, I told myself it was over. I had won. I had reclaimed everything they stole from me. My pride, my confidence, my voice. And yet, some nights when I got home and took off my heels, I'd pour a glass of wine and catch myself thinking about them. Not with longing, not even anger, just curiosity. What became of them? Did they turn on each other completely? Did they realize what they'd lost? It wasn't obsession. It was the kind of wondering you do when a book ends but one page still feels unturned. One evening, about 3 months after they left my company, I got an email. No subject line. Just a single name in the sender box. Ethan. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Monica. I know I don't deserve your time, but I wanted to say something before I disappear for good. You were right. About everything. I ruined us. I ruined myself. Lena's gone. She left last month. Took what little money we had and disappeared. I don't blame her. She got caught in the mess I created. I wanted you to know that I admire you. You built something powerful out of the ashes I left. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to thank you for teaching me what strength really looks like. I hope you're happy, Ethan. I sat there in my dimly lit apartment, staring at the screen, the words blurring slightly as tears filled my eyes. Not sadness, not exactly. More like the ache of realizing a chapter had truly ended. I whispered to myself, I am happy. And for the first time in years it felt true. The next morning I deleted the email and went on with my day. But the universe, it seems, wasn't done testing my peace. A week later, my HR director walked into my office looking nervous. Monica, she said softly, you might want to see this. She handed me a small folder. A legal notice from a competitor company. Apparently, Ethan had applied for a job there and listed my company as a reference. They were asking for my professional feedback. I almost laughed. After everything, he was still walking through doors connected to me. The easy option would have been to ignore it. Or worse, to destroy him further with a few harsh words that would end his career for good. But as I sat there, holding that piece of paper, I felt something unexpected rise inside me, grace. For so long, my life had revolved around revenge. Every move, every decision, every victory had been shaped by what they did to me. But wasn't true freedom walking away without needing to hurt anyone anymore? I took a deep breath and typed my response. Ethan Cole worked at Reeves Marketing for 6 months. He showed strong leadership, creativity, and collaboration under pressure. I recommend him for employment. I signed it, printed it, and handed it back. Send it, I told HR. And as she walked out, I felt lighter, like I'd finally put the ashes down. That night I drove to the beach. The one Ethan and I used to visit when we were young and stupid and thought love could survive anything. The moonlight danced over the waves, and the air smelled like salt and second chances. I sat there for hours barefoot in the sand, letting the wind tangle my hair. Somewhere deep down I whispered to myself, I forgive you, Ethan. Not for you. For me. And I meant it. Every word. But life, as I'd learned, loves irony. 2 months later, during a major industry gala, I saw him again. I was networking with some executives when I turned, and there he was standing near the bar, wearing a cheap gray suit that tried and failed to hide years of exhaustion. He saw me almost instantly. His eyes widened, surprise, maybe even admiration. Then he smiled sadly and approached. Monica, he said, his voice low, gentle. You look unstoppable. I smiled back. You always liked power, didn't you? He chuckled quietly. Yeah, but I never realized what real power looked like until I lost it. We stood there in silence for a moment. Then he said, Lena reached out recently. She wanted to apologize to you. She's not doing well. Something inside me softened. Tell her I hope she finds peace, I said simply. He nodded, emotion flickering in his eyes. You really did move on. I had to, I replied. If I stayed angry, I'd still belong to the pain you gave me. He nodded again, looking down, his hands shaking slightly. I wish I could undo it all. I looked at him for a long moment, the man who once shattered me. He wasn't a villain anymore. Just a broken human who had to live with his choices. You can't undo it, I said softly. But you can live differently now. That's your punishment. And your chance. He smiled faintly, tears in his eyes. You really did win, didn't you? I met his gaze. No, Ethan. I just stopped losing. And then I walked away. A year passed. My company tripled in size. I became a keynote speaker at business conferences, sharing my story. Not the personal betrayal, but the professional resilience behind it. People admired my discipline, my leadership, my calm under pressure. No one knew the ghost that built me. But every now and then, I'd remember that younger version of myself, sitting in a car in the rain, shattered, whispering through tears, "I'll never be okay again." And I wished I could go back to her, hold her face in my hands and tell her, "You'll not only be okay, you'll be unstoppable." Because revenge wasn't the ending. Power wasn't the prize. Peace was. 6 months later, I received a small cream-colored envelope with no return address. Inside was a letter, written in Lena's handwriting. "Monica, I don't know if this will reach you, but I needed to say it. You were the best friend I ever had, and I destroyed that because I mistook envy for love. I thought taking what you had would make me feel whole. It didn't. It broke me. You were right, everything comes back around. I lost my job, my marriage, my confidence. But I'm trying to start again. I'm taking design courses. I'm working at a small firm now. Thank you for not humiliating us more than we deserved. You're stronger than anyone I know. If I ever see you again, I'll thank you in person. Lena." I sat there reading it, my chest tight. Then I smiled. Because for the first time, the story wasn't about betrayal or revenge anymore. It was about growth. Redemption. Time healing what fire couldn't. I folded the letter neatly and placed it in my drawer. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. That even broken people can rebuild. That forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It reclaims the future. Years later, standing on a stage before hundreds of women at a leadership conference, I told them something I had learned the hard way. When someone betrays you, I said, you have two choices. You can let it poison you or you can let it plant something new. The pain doesn't disappear, it transforms. It teaches you what real strength feels like. There was silence in the room. And then applause, long, loud, and raw. As the lights flashed and the crowd stood, I smiled. Because that was it. The closure I didn't know I still needed. Not the day I fired them. Not the day Ethan emailed. Not even when Lena apologized. It was this moment, standing tall, unbroken, telling my story without shame, fear, or anger. I finally understood. I never took revenge. I just took my power back.